Good evening to all. Welcome to CSB IAS Academy Current Affairs Bulletin. Uh, One of the topmost news for civil aspirants is yesterday civil services results were out, and all over India we have good results. Even in Andhra and Telangana we have good results. Hope all of you who are seeing this program, Current Affairs Bulletin, will also get success very soon, and I wish you all the best. With this good note, we'll start today's current affairs. First thing, asset quality of the banks, particularly non banking lenders, can deteriorate further. You all know that due to COVID, many businesses were closed and businesses went into losses. They could not repay the loans. They could not repay the loans. And rating agency ICRA said that 10 to 15% of borrowers, they may ask for moratorium. They may not repay the loans, they may ask for moratorium. So NBFCs, non-banking financial companies, they may further go into losses. Already from last 2 3 years, we have an issue with NBFCs. They are into losses. There are many problems in NBFCs. Still, they may have some other problems also because of this COVID virus and economic outcome, economic consequence of COVID virus. A further deterioration of asset quality. The word asset quality is very important. What do you mean by asset quality? Asset quality means the quality of the loan account. For example, if there is no proper repayment of principal or interest for the loan taken, that means the quality of that particular asset is weak. If borrower do not repay properly, that means the quality of the asset is very very weak. And although government have given relaxation in lockdown, they have given relaxations in the lockdown, and but still businesses are not improving. Businesses are not improving. Yesterday we have seen the news, the economy, particularly 8 core sectors, are also not performing that well. The core sectors in the economy are also not performing that well, so this is the issue. This is the news from various business newspapers today. And next important news, uh, this word is often found in the newspapers and also various current affairs magazines. Debt trap diplomacy. Debt trap diplomacy. Actually, this word is coined by a very great Indian thinker, Brahma Chilani. He comes always in international relations. And when you take political science and IR as an optional, Brahma Chilani name comes many times in your answer sheet. So the word debt trap diplomacy was coined by Brahma Chilani when he observed how China is making African countries vulnerable by making them to take Chinese loans. African countries are really exploited by China, and China gives a lot of loans to African countries and use debt tap diplomacy. Generally, who will give loans to the poor countries, to the developing countries? Generally, multinational development banks will give the loans, or the institutions like IMF will give the loans, or World Bank for infrastructural projects. But these multinational banks, World Bank or IMF, they'll give loans at a very low rate of interest, 3%, 4% maximum. Maximum they will give at very low rate of interest. But China gives loans with a high rate of interest, 6% and above. China gives loans at a high rate of interest. Now, why these countries like African countries, Southeast Asian countries, most of the Asian countries, though Chinese rate of interest is very high, why do they take loans from China? Why do they take loan from China? Actually, if you want to take loan from a multinational bank, or if you wish to take loan from IMF or World Bank, a country has to have many transparency conditions, and a country should also restructure their economies according to the conditions imposed by IMF or World Bank or multinational banks. IMF or World Bank or multinational banks. So China will not put all these conditions. China will have different conditions. What are the conditions China generally impose on the countries to which it grants loans? First thing, China will take land as collateral. China will take land as collateral. Second thing is, China will take from some countries repayment in the crude oil. Repayment of the loan should be done, can be done in crude oil or some other product also. In the same way, China will ask that Chinese person should be employed in the workforce of the project. China will ask that Chinese person should be employed in the workforce of the project. Even this is important. Next important news, Donald Trump bars or bans. Donald Trump bars or bans H1B visa holders from federal jobs until the end of 2020. Donald Trump bans or bars H1B visa holders from federal jobs until the end of 2020. This is a news. So, federal jobs means government jobs. Obviously, now Trump is preferring most of the jobs for Americans, American jobs for Americans theory. And in the COVID crisis, Americans are also losing jobs in America. So, Donald Trump says now federal jobs are only for Americans till the end of 2020, and H1B visa holders are not entitled to get jobs, federal jobs, not other jobs. Federal jobs in America means government related jobs. So don't get mistaken, they are not private jobs, they are government related jobs. And next important, very important news for today, I wish to tell you this news in particular. The news is about, according to United Nations policy brief, according to a UN report, 24 million children in the world, 24 million children in the world may drop out from the school due to corona pandemic. See the shocking news. 24 million children in the world may drop out from the schools with this corona pandemic. This is a shocking news. Nearly 1.6 billion learners in more than 160 countries, in more than 160 countries, they might get affected, and almost entire world got affected, and 94% of the students affected by this corona crisis. 94, almost the entire student community got affected by coronavirus, and the schools were closed, and poor children, even this corona effect might affect their studies next year also. Studies next year also. So in this, I wish to tell you, even UNESCO report says the same, similar things. There's a report given by UNESCO. Even that report also speaks about the same. Here, I wish to tell you two important issues which you have to keep in mind while preparing for prelims. According to this report, I told you many children, they are going to become dropouts. That is different. I'm going to tell two important things which are very important for you right now. One is UNESCO. What is UNESCO? You all know that America announced it is coming out of UNESCO. Number one. Number two also, you should know, UNESCO was set up in 1945. The headquarters of UNESCO are at Paris. The headquarters of UNESCO are at Paris. And one more important organization which might come in the exam is, in fact, I can say it is a program. It is not an organization, it's a program. PISA, PISA, Program for International Student Assessment. PISA, Program for International Student Assessment. PISA is a global assessment program initiated by OECD. Remember, you might get a prelims question on this. What is PISA? PISA, Program for International Student Assessment. It is a global assessment program. It's a global assessment program initiated by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. It will study, PISA will study comparative data of education policy in various countries, education policies and qualitative outcome. So PISA will study how education policies and qualitative outcomes in various countries, comparative study. It means what is the education curriculum in America, what is the education curriculum in African countries, what is the education curriculum in India, and what is the outcome of the students. Is this education curriculum matching their life necessities? All these things they will see. They'll say PISA. And India most of the times have not fared that well in PISA assessment. India, most of the times, have not fared that well. And you are expected to read something relation between India and PISA. India has participated in PISA test only once before in 2009. India have participated in PISA test only once before in 2000, that is in 2009. And India is now not participating in PISA. India now not participating in PISA. Just you can read about PISA also. That is very important. So next important thing, which is very interesting again, very interesting. Have you heard about e-skin, electronic skin? See, electronic skin performs the similar touch functions like a normal skin. We have our skin right here. The similar functional performance, it can have the same functional performance. Singapore researchers developed electronic skin. Singapore researchers developed electronic skin, e-skin, which can feel the touch. That feeling of touch is called a tactile sense. TACTILE. Feeling of touch is called tactile sense. For example, if people are injured, or people body parts are burned, or if people have some accident when they lose their fingers or some parts of body with skin, so they might be missing that feel of touch forever. But this particular e-skin will help them a lot. This particular e-skill will, it can help them to feel the sense of touch, to feel the sense of touch. This innovation will allow people with prosthetic limbs to detect objects as well as feel texture or even temperature and pain. Remember, it can feel the texture, it can feel the temperature, it can also feel the pain. Texture, temperature, and pain. And Singapore researchers named this as ACES. ACES, asynchronous coded electronic skin. ACES, asynchronous coded electronic skin. So this e-skin is made up of 100 small sensors. This e-skin is made up of 100 small sensors, and it is about 15, it is about very small. No, it's about small centimeters, 15, I think, centimeters in size. National University of Singapore. National University of Singapore have prepared this. It have prepared this. It can process information faster than our normal nervous system. This e-skin can process information faster than our normal nervous system. This is also very good news. It is able to recognize, e-skin is able to recognize 20 to 30 different textures. It is able to recognize 20 to 30 different textures. So there is such great news about e-skin. And next important news, this is about Lebanon, Beirut. There were twin explosions in Beirut yesterday. A very huge explosion, and the explosion was felt even in the Cyprus, 290 kilometers away from Beirut. So 290 kilometers away from Beirut, there's a country called Cyprus. Even in that country, the explosion is felt. Now, just see that. The sound of that explosion even reached Cyprus. That was a twin explosion that has happened in Beirut. And first of all, you should know, whenever such things happen, you should know Lebanon is near the Mediterranean Sea. Generally, UPSC will ask questions. Previous year's questions, we can find questions. The countries near the Mediterranean Sea. The countries near the Mediterranean Sea. Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, Greece, Montenegro, Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Slovenia, Italy, Monaco, France, Spain, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt. All these countries are near the Mediterranean Sea. I expect all of you to locate all these countries in the map. And one more question we can expect here is, there are two island nations inside the Mediterranean Sea. There are two island nations inside the Mediterranean Sea. Even this question you can expect. One is Malta, one is Cyprus. There are two island nations inside the Mediterranean Sea. One is Malta, the other is at Cyprus. And remember a news in Lebanon, why this twin explosion? The explosion is relating to ammonium nitrate. The explosion is related to ammonium nitrate. Ammonium nitrate is an explosive material. Government confiscated this ammonium material from private people, and government have stored in a warehouse. Their exploration was made, and there that was explored, and more than 100 people died according to official estimates. More than thousands of people. We don't know how many people exactly died, but hundreds of people died and thousands of people got injured. That was Beirut, Lebanon issue. Okay, there were been explosions, and I expect you to see the map of Mediterranean countries, including Cyprus and Malta, all Mediterranean countries. That's very important for exam. Next important news for today: Junagadh. Junagadh. Why it is in news? Pakistan's new political map claims that Junagadh is a part of Pakistan, and Pakistan's new political map claims that almost entire Jammu Kashmir also belongs to Pakistan. You know what Pakistan new map says about our Jammu Kashmir? India illegally occupied Jammu Kashmir. Indian illegally occupied Jammu Kashmir. This is the term Pakistan used. And one more important thing, that timing and date when Pakistan released. Today is August 5th. Exactly 1 year back, uh, our parliament have repealed Article 370 35A, which gives special status to Jammu Kashmir. And exactly within 1 year, Pakistan is claiming almost entire Jammu Kashmir, and Pakistan is also claiming Junagadh. And here you are expected to know two things. One is Sar Creek, second is Junagadh. There are two issues you are expected to know. Before going to these two issues, I wish to tell, Pakistan's claim is it was completely an illusion. It was not based on any proof or anything. Okay, so there are two things which you are expected to know. One is Sar Creek, and second is Junagadh. Sar Creek and Junagadh. And yesterday, Pakistan's foreign minister Mr. Qureshi also commented that their aim was also to claim Srinagar. They wanted to claim Srinagar. You know how Indian Ministry of External Affairs have responded for that. Our MEA have responded for that. MEA said it is an exercise in political absurdity. It is an exercise in political absurdity. Absurdity means meaningless. Nonsense exercise by Pakistan. Some meaningless exercise by Pakistan. It reflects Pakistan's obsession for territorial aggrandizement on Jammu Kashmir, which have no legal backing, which have no international credibility, which have no legal backing, which have no international credibility. So, here I wish to tell you first Junagadh. In Junagadh, it was a part of princely state of Kathiawar. Junagadh in Gujarat, part of princely state of Kathiawar earlier, and the ruler was a Muslim and people were Hindus. A plebiscite was conducted and people wanted to integrate into India. And then Junagadh was integrated into India. Now Pakistan is saying Junagadh is a part of Pakistan, Pakistan's new political map. This is sheer meaningless act. Second thing, Sar Creek. You should also know what is Sar Creek. Sar Creek is a 96 kilometers long estuary in Gujarat, and Pakistan is claiming entire Sar Creek, entire width of Sar Creek estuary, while India says that the Sar Creek should be demarcated into two halves. Actually, Sar Creek is actually located between Sindh province of Pakistan and Gujarat state of India. Sindh province of Pakistan, Gujarat state of India. Even this is important. And next important news for today: Sri Lankan election. Sri Lankan election. There were elections are being conducted in Sri Lanka. Sri Lankan Parliament have 225 total membership. Out of 225, 196 are directly elected through proportional representation. Remaining 29 are being nominated, and the membership term is 5 years. The membership term is 5 years. Actually, the election should be held in the month of April. It was postponed to June. Again, it should be held in June. It was postponed to August. And now the elections were conducted. By all probability, Sri Lankan People's Party, that is the present President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's party, is going to win in the present Sri Lankan parliamentary elections. And I think if this Gotabaya Rajpaksha party wins with the absolute majority, two-third majority, they might increase the powers of president. They might amend the constitution. 3 years back, for Sri Lanka, there was a constitutional amendment called 19th Constitutional Amendment. According to 19th Amendment, more powers were given to parliament, less powers are given to president. Sri Lanka is a presidential form of government. Slowly, powers are being given to parliament and president powers are decreased. Now, Gotabaya Rajpaksha, after taking control over parliament, might again amend the Sri Lankan constitution. The present constitution of Sri Lanka have come into force in the year 1978. In the year 1978. And one more important thing, the 13th amendment to the Sri Lankan constitution have not seen the light. The 13th amendment to the Sri Lankan constitution have not seen the light. What is 13th amendment to the Sri Lankan constitution? The proposed 13th amendment to the Sri Lankan constitution is to devolve more powers to the provinces, federal autonomy, more provinces. That is for the Tamil majority provinces and other provinces, giving more autonomy. And today's the top news. I think you already guessed. Ayodhya Ram Mandir. The issue which have rocked the Indian political system and Indian cultural aspect, which determined our political system and cultural aspect. In fact, one of the issues which made BJP to win the elections today, the foundation ceremony. So, of Ram Mandir, Prime Minister Modi ji went personally, and it is going to be built in the Nagara architecture style. It's going to be built around in 2 acres, and you all know that Chief Justice Ranganjan Gogoi, under his Chief Justice tenure, during his tenure, continuous 40 days arguments on Ayodhya issue, and 2.77 acres of land. The legal dispute which was pending for decades was solved, and Babri Masjid, they have started allotting new land, 5 kilometers, 5 acres of land, and Sri Rama Janmabhoomi Trust, Sri Rama Janmabhoomi Tirtha Kshetra Trust was created with 15 members, and from last 3 decades, the issue is going on, and the judgment came, and finally, there's a beautiful plan for Ram Mandir, and they're planning to construct it in 3.5 years. This is the last, but also I can say the news which attracted the nation today. These are the important current affairs for today. Tomorrow we'll meet, and thank you.